What's good, everybody? So, I was gonna try to do this as briefly as possible, just kind of give my history as a musician and why I do it now and all that good stuff. So, let's start at the beginning, all the way back. Grew up in a house there was always music, pretty much, at least for a little bit in the evenings. In the summertime, on Saturdays, like, yeah, definitely radio going. I'm old enough to remember Casey Kasem as a small child. Look him up, especially on YouTube, because there's a lot of really great outtakes. But don't look at the outtakes first; they won't be as funny in context. But, but yeah, famous radio DJ. So like anybody, I got introduced to music through basically pop. I guess that's not everybody's story, but I didn't know that there was anything else, other than what was on the radio for the longest. So another kid, I met him. I think I met him in school. I guess, yeah, I met him in school on the bus. Actually, yeah, met him on the bus, and turns out that he lived right down the street from me. So he had older siblings and heard things like, Metallica and the Beastie Boys through them. So I was introduced to that around the time I was about 10 or 11, I think. And before that, though, I was listening to like the Fresh Prince and the Fat Boys, like dead ass. I begged and begged my mom to let me have this Fat Boys tape. Let me have this Fat Boys tape. Let me have this Fat Boys tape. Because like I thought Prince Marky D was like really cool, and like that they were just generally very cool because they rapped about all you can eat buffets and stuff like that. Hey, fat kid at heart, man, foodie. But yeah, Fresh Prince. Like I remember my favorite song by them was actually an instrumental called "DJ on the Wheels." If you want to look that up, Jazzy Jeff, very very dope DJ. But anyway, got introduced to metal. Actually, the first metal song I heard was "The Trooper" by Iron Maiden. It was on a video. It was on a VHS. Now, I was always a little bit technologically behind because for most of my life, we didn't really have a lot of money. We never had a lot of money, but then we really didn't have a lot of money. See, I can laugh now because I got my own house, but but yeah, where was I? Yeah, we were always a little bit technologically behind. So VHS of MTV videos that was found in like a bargain bin at, I believe, a Rose's, or maybe it was Sky City. I don't know. It was one of those kind of off-brand department stores. No offense, no offense. I do occasionally shop at the Roses Express up the street. I actually got this shirt from there now I think about it. Uh, so that was my first introduction to actual heavy metal, and I had never heard any again for like a couple years, and then my mom, of all people, really got into Guns N' Roses, and just was trying to jam some Welcome to the Jungle on the way to work because it was like that was like her hype up music in the morning, which is funny. Like I think about it, like I have hype up music in the morning too sometimes, especially when you go into a job that you really don't like. But one day I saw saw someone playing guitar on TV, and it wasn't the first time I saw someone actually playing music in front of me. Like I have an uncle who played guitar and sang at his house. He had his own PA system and things like that. Now I have my own PA system. Funny how that works. But but yeah, but I guess it just took a song that really gravitated to me personally, or a certain sound for it to really click or something like that, or maybe it just wasn't the right time. But I went, ooh, that looks cool. I want to do that. And like a lot of kids, growing up at that time, during that time period. They begged their parents for a cheap, crappy guitar, and then my parents eventually caved. They thought I was going to give it up after a couple months and move on to something else. That's what most parents typically think. Um, but I kept playing and eventually started programming. Well, I say programming, but it was really just pressing record and have the loop playback. But if you've seen Hustle and Flow, you know, like the drums on the basic keyboards. Yeah, that's how I started, and then just would record that onto a tape, and then play that back through a big loud stereo, and then play guitar over that, and then record that onto another tape. What you know about that? So that's how I started recording a long time ago, and then eventually I moved up to. I'm gonna try to speed the story up a little bit. Eventually, you know, music tastes and technology progressed. I moved on to death metal and more hardcore rap music, um, and recording onto a Fostex VF80. If you'd like to look that up. No, I'm not gonna take the time to put photos of all these things in here. I'm a dad. I don't have time to do all that shit in addition to everything else I do. Like my Instagram page at Perp. Haha, nice segue. But so that's where I first on that Fostex VF80. That's where I first got introduced to like mixing and things like that, and burning my own CDs and actually coming up with a product. Here, would you like my CD? Please listen to my music. That was that first time, and this was, I guess, like right at the beginning of like the boom of social media. Was when the ball started really rolling on a project called Hideous. Um, like probably my third or fourth, fifth, sixth attempt at actually getting a project that stuck. Like I don't remember all the names of previous projects, but around the time that I came up with Hideous, it was like the MySpace days, and I'd already been making music for years at that point. Um, Taught myself everything except for about half dozen guitar lessons from a guy named Scott Ward, um, R.I.P. Uh, but yeah, I learned from like reading chord books and just kind of messing around on my own. I took those 6 lessons to learn how to play other band songs, like Pantera and stuff. Just a little kid, like ooh metal, listening to everybody. Um, and yeah, just the music has just changed and evolved over the years, but I never really pursued it super serious because I was just, I don't know, I guess in a lot of ways still finding myself, but especially back then, just figuring out who I am and what I want to do. And so I moved to a different city after I met a wonderful woman I would later marry and start a family with and buy a house with. Um, so I moved up here to Greenville, South Carolina from Greenwood, South Carolina. So that was a bit of a jump in size of the city and things happening there. And started playing my first shows a little over 10 years ago, and uh, and started networking, and I eventually got into another band because of those open mic nights and things like that. Shout out Ground Zero in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Um, and Dark Before Dawn, R.I.P. That's the band that I wound up getting into. But and then from there, I recognized a gap in the music scene. Like we didn't have anybody talking about the heavy bands, and especially none of the different genres of rap music or hip hop or whatever you prefer to call it. Nobody was talking about that stuff. So taking what little bit of podcast experience I had before with another podcast that was just ridiculous and stupid and satirical, but no one really caught that part. Um, uh, but I, I I made a podcast for all the bands around here that weren't really getting a lot of traction because people didn't want to talk about them. And from there, put together shows and Gusto Fest. I did 6 of those. We were in the Greenville News and Greenville Journal a couple years there when I was really, really hard on my grind before I had my first major burnout. And I got married at Gusto Fest 5. My wife and I put together our own wedding in the middle of my music festival as a surprise to everyone. And boy, howdy, did it surprise everyone. See, everybody thought I was wearing a suit because it was the 5th one. It was like, oh, yeah, you dressed up for the big anniversary, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then Hillary Keene, shout out Hillary Keene Project, uh, started singing I Can't Help Falling in Love with You by Elvis. I guess that's who originally did it. I don't know. That version, whatever. I don't remember. Don't sweat me for tiny details. And people were like, oh, yeah, yeah, cool, cool, cool. This is nice. She sings very pretty. And then I'm standing there with my uncle, who did a different uncle, who did the wedding ceremony. He's got this fresh ass silk shirt, all white silk shirt that was like tailored in China. So people's like, what's going on here? And then she gets walked up by her dad, and then right as the song's wrapping up, and then we have the wedding ceremony right there in front of how like 100 or so. It seemed like a lot because when it was the You May Kiss the Bride, thunderous applause. It was pretty awesome. And I bought pizza for everybody. I bought like 10 pizzas for everybody because the place sold pizzas, and I was giving away pizza to everybody at the end of the night. Yeah, I bought pizza for all the bands. I mean, and got them beer and all this stuff. And and then I still wound up that night. So much money in it, I could not close my wallet. No cap. could not fold it. Could not fold it. But I'm getting kind of off track here. So I did that, and decided it was time to move out of our little trailer that was falling apart down there in South Greenville. Shout out to District. I met a lot of great people and made a lot of lasting friendships in that part of town, no matter what anybody wants to say about it. That part of town is probably most famous for the clown sightings at Fleetwood Manor. Fun fact. But yeah, so we bought a house in North Greenville and started a family, and now I'm on my music grind extra hard because now I have legacy to think about, and I want to change the way people think about themselves and what you can do as just a regular person who's maybe a little odd in the music business. Like, you're not gonna see me in like a feather boa. I don't know, you might see me in a feather boa. If I felt like doing that, I'd do it. But I mean, I don't really have any kind of massive pretense about what I do. I am just a fairly regular person, just trying to find themselves and express themselves through art and music and just discussion, because deep down at the core of what I do, it's to bring people who think they're different together. That was the main goal of Gusto Fest, was to like change the way people thought around here about putting shows together, and to kind of introduce this group of people to this group of people, and have them go, hey, we're actually really, really similar in what we're trying to do. Even though, you're into metal, I'm into hip hop, we can get together and make great things happen. Just look at all the music scenes throughout history that have been famous, like New York in the 70s, and LA in the 80s, and Seattle in the 90s. I mean, that's the way I look at it. Why not Greenville, South Carolina? But thanks for listening, everybody. Follow me on Instagram at Perp. I'm sorry about the shaky camera right there. And oh yeah, subscribe to this channel because I'll do stuff like this a little more often.